I want to thank all of you at New Mexico State, and tonight there's a great program going on, the Pete Domenici Public Policy Forum, and I think it's great that we honor Pete Domenici, a great member of the United States Senate and a great servant of this nation, and I thank you for your support of him for many, many years. And so I want to say thanks for being here. I'd like to make a few comments, and then I'd like to do what this is supposed to be all about, and that is listen to your questions, your comments, your concerns, your views, your ideas. That's what town hall meetings are supposed to be. That's what I think America should be about. And I'm sorry that Senator Obama is not here with me today. I asked a long time ago for Senator Obama to come to town hall meetings with me. A little bit of history is that Barry Goldwater and Jack Kennedy had agreed to fly around the country to hold town hall meetings all over America. Unfortunately, the tragedy of Dallas intervened. But that's what it's supposed to be about. Not the sound bites, not the various attack ads and all the stuff that seems to go on, which I don't think inform the American people very well. Saturday night, I had the opportunity at least to respond to the same questions that Senator Obama had, and I think the American people have made a judgment on that. So I just want to speak briefly with you about a couple of issues. And first of all, you know that I've been called a maverick. Sometimes it's meant as a compliment. Sometimes it's not. But it means that I understand who I work for. I don't work for a party. I don't work for a president. And I don't work for a special interest. I don't work for myself. I work for you and the country that I love. And that's what I've been about all my life. And I spoke up against my party for out-of-control spending. I think you all know that we've spent money in a way that has mortgaged our children's future. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. You know, Ronald Reagan used to say, Congress spends money like a drunken sailor, only I never knew a sailor, drunk or sober, with the imagination of Congress, and that's a pretty funny line, and I use it fairly often. I use it so often, I'm not making this up when I tell you I got an email from a guy that said, as a former drunken sailor, I resent being compared to members of Congress. So I spoke up against the pork barrel spending, and it's going to stop. I spoke up against the administration for their mistakes in Iraq. And I fought for the surge that's going to bring our troops home with victory and honor, not in defeat, as Senator Obama wanted to happen. Now, I'd like to talk to you just for a couple of minutes about what you all know has been going on in a small little country far away from the United States of America, country of Georgia. Georgia was one of the first Christian nations. In the 3rd century, the king of Georgia converted to Christianity. If you go to Georgia, it's a beautiful little country. There's churches that go back to the 4th and 5th century. It was part of the Russian Empire. Then they became part of the Soviet Union. They broke free, and they had a terribly corrupt government. And there's a young man named Saakashvili who went to school in the United States of America. He went to George Washington University, and then he went to Columbia, which, by the way, where my daughter Megan went to school. So, Megan, please thank you and tell about the tuition costs there. I'm very proud of her achievements, and anybody who knows of openings for art history majors, please let me know after. I'm very proud that she was able to go to such a wonderful school and get a great education. But so did Misha Saakashvili. And he came back to Georgia, and there was a whole bunch of other young people like him who wanted democracy and freedom. They had a corrupt government headed by a guy named Shevardnadze, who you may remember from the days of the Cold War. And they had a peaceful revolution, and they took over, and they were putting democracy and freedom and human rights, and they were prospering. And guess who didn't like it? Vladimir Putin didn't like it. So, you know, we'll read about it in the history books, but we'll go through it and as we parse what happened, and I'm sure that there was some provocation. But the fact is, Russian aggression was overwhelming, brutal, looting, murder, killing. and they still, to this day, even though having signed a ceasefire agreement, are not leaving. Why do we care? Of course, we always care about any country in the world where democracy and freedom may be strangled in the cradle. But we also care because of what happens in the region. The old Russian ambition, predating the Soviet Union, is to control that part of the world. It's not an accident that 5 presidents of 5 countries, Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, all came to Tbilisi when that country was under attack. And they did it because they know that their country is going to be under pressure from the Russians as well, and Ukraine especially. And why else do we care? There's a pipeline that goes through Georgia, which is literally, well, is for all intents and purposes the only oil pipeline that doesn't go through Russia. You have seen the Russians use oil as a weapon. When the Czechs agreed with us to put some missile defense radars in their country, the Russians cut back on their oil supplies. So it's also got to do with energy. It's got to do with energy as well, and world markets. And one thing I want to assure you of is that I will, as President of the United States, achieve energy independence. We cannot afford to send $700 billion a year overseas to countries we don't like us very much. And so keep the brave Georgians in your thoughts and prayers, and we have to take certain actions as to whether Russia should be in the World Trade Organization, whether they should be in the G8, or now I hope be G7, and other actions that need to be taken. But this kind of provocation is not acceptable in the 21st century, an activity. And just let me remind you, and I do not make any predictions, I hope that we can modify Russian behavior. But I would remind you that wars, those of us that study history, wars and conflicts have started at other obscure places in the world, and we want to keep this one under control. Yesterday, I was at an oil rig. Yesterday, I was at an oil rig offshore in Louisiana. It was quite an impressive technological marvel. I think it's 10,000 barrels a day of oil come through that oil rig. And so my point is that they do it off the coast of Louisiana, they do it off the coast of Texas, and we need to drill offshore, and we need to do it now off our shores, and we can become energy independent. Senator Obama says he wants energy independence, but he's opposed to new drilling at home. He's opposed to nuclear power. My friends, we have to have nuclear power. Nuclear power has got to be part of any way of us being energy independent. Why should it take the French 5 years to build a nuclear power plants and us 10 or more? And by the way, the French now reprocess their spent nuclear fuel. We can do that. We can do that. 80% of the French electricity is generated by nuclear power. Now, we always want to be like the French, but the fact is, by the way, in case you missed it, we now have a pro-American president of France, which shows if you live long enough, anything can happen in the world. But the fact is, we need nuclear power. But we need all of the above. We need wind, tide, solar. Where better place for solar than New Mexico and Arizona? Wind, tide, solar, nuclear, natural gas. We need all the above. America sits on the largest reserves of coal in the world. We can develop clean coal technology and become independent. We cannot afford this. We cannot afford this. And you know, a lot of times I hear that we can't do this. We can't reprocess. We can't store. We can't build nuclear power plants. We can't drill offshore. We can't do this. We can't. That's not America.